Alright, in this video I will be doing some insulation on my rim joists, also known as rim boards or headers. You can see this is sort of what I inherited with the house. Lots of the plastic is torn out, the insulation sagging so it's not touching the floor, and in some cases there is really no insulation at all, as can be seen right there. This is my start state. So what I'm going to do is I'm using sort of a flash and bat mixture of spray foam and rock wool R22. I'm using acoustic seal to seal it up when I put the 6mm plastic on. I got great stuff, spray foam, obviously a stapler, a really cheap bread knife. I find that cuts through the rock wool very well. I got a utility knife, tape measure, 6mm plastic, and that's pretty much it. So you can see the rim joists here. When I go to the front of the house, it's actually a rim board, it kind of mixes it up. But I've already ripped out all the insulation and cut the plastic back, and you can also see there are some spots where electrical wires go through that wall, and those aren't sealed at all. You can use different caulking methods around the rim joist, but I'm going to use the spray foam, and really you want to hit the top and bottom. I just do the whole square, but really it's the top and the bottom. So the top where it connects to the floor and the bottom where it connects to the sill plate are the more important spots. I chose not to use pink insulation for this application. In my area, you also have to put drywall over top of any area that you use that pink board, and I didn't want to go that route. So I'm just going to hit the cracks up. You can see me doing the sill plate as well with the spray foam, and I'm going to do that all the way down the line here, but I'm just showing you this one. So once you spray it, obviously you got to let it set up and harden before you put your pink insulation, or in my case the rock wool insulation, in. And you can see the first one's done, and obviously I just showed the one, but I came around all of them. And like I said, I don't think you really need to do the joists. I just did them because I wanted to. And obviously I made a bit of a mess right there where the electrical wire passes through the house, but I definitely wanted to seal that all the way through. Now my joists are all 16 on center, so these fit in pretty well. Really, I just need to cut them for their height, and the height is about 11 inches. So I don't really do any fancy cuts. I just cut them about a 1/4 inch larger, so it's a really tight fit, and then just cut through the insulation with the bread knife. I definitely prefer this stuff to the pink insulation, although this is a little bit more expensive. I find that it's less itchy when you're working with it, and you can cut it into more defined shapes, so it makes for a better fit. It also doesn't sag as much as the pink stuff does. So for all these joist headers, I'm actually using double thickness, so 2 R22 chunks. That doesn't equal R44, I don't think, but it definitely will get it higher than R22. So because I put that spray foam all the way around, I'm cutting about an inch all the way around off this piece of rock wool insulation, and that's just to get a tighter fit against the rim joist. So that'll accommodate for the space that's going to be taken up by the spray foam that I already put in. And then on the piece for the bottom, I actually make it a little bit larger because it overhangs the sill plate. So this is the way the insulation will extend all the way down to the concrete, and it'll make a tighter seal in there. So you can see the sill plate that I sort of cut out around as well. And you can also see that I jammed some insulation underneath the joists and in between the concrete. Not a whole lot of mystery here. I find it was a little bit of a pain because there's all sorts of nails sticking down from when they did the flooring, but ultimately the nails help because it actually holds it in place a little tighter. So you can see this insulation really keeps its form and really fills up the cavity well. So as long as you cut it about a 1/4 or even an 1/8 of an inch larger than you need it, it really makes a really nice tight seal in there. And then obviously I'm putting the second one in. My goal is to have the insulation come right up to the edge of the 2x4 wall that is still drywalled. So this way when I do the insulation for the wall, those two chunks of insulation will actually overlap each other and there won't be a separation. Through the magic of video editing, you can see that I've got all of the insulation in place. Now this acoustic sealant is designed for both to be an acoustic sealant and to assist with your vapor barrier. Basically, it's really sticky, really gooey stuff, and once you get it on something, it's really hard to get off. But those are good properties for what I'm using it for. So you can see I put the acoustic seal on all three edges. I cut a piece of plastic that's just a little bit larger than the cavity by about 2 inches in all directions. And then I cut the corners out just so it doesn't bunch up as much. I find it's best to sort of put it into the middle first and then work your way around. For the most part, after 2 or 3 tries, I can do a pretty clean job of it, but every once in a while you do make a mess with it, so it is a bit of a pain to deal with, but it will do a much better job than just using the plastic by itself. As far as stapling it, I'm stapling right through that black line of acoustic sealant, and that'll create a better airtight seal. So you can see all the staples going through there. I had to add a little bit of acoustic sealant in the top center right there, just because the plastic sort of pushed it away. But you can see that'll make a more airtight seal than just the plastic alone, so there's not any gaps. So like I said, I'm going to rip the walls off later. I just can't do it now because all the stores are sort of closed. I don't want to do curbside pickup for drywall and wood and insulation and stuff. So in the future, I'm going to pull the drywall off, and that's why I've kept this nice large flap on the bottom of this vapor barrier. So when I remove that drywall, I'm going to use the acoustic seal again onto the 2x4 wall behind the drywall, and then I'll use some plastic tape and put the drywall back on top of it. So that'll be a bit of a future job. So you can see all the cavities are sort of done there with the acoustic seal 6mm plastic. So definitely cleaner and definitely 100% better than what I had going on before. Certainly there's other ways to do it with spray foam and stuff like that. Now for spots where the air ducts run through, I'm going to actually use a different type of insulation first, and then I'm going to insulate around the air duct. So my goal is to have a really tight insulation on the air duct so that I don't have hot and cold swings inside of the joist header cavity. So for that, I got some of this aluminum foiled duct tape, not like the plasticized duct tape brand duct tape. Obviously the metal stuff would be preferred. And then I picked up a roll of this Reflectix spiral duct insulation. So essentially I'm going to use this to wrap the duct up and use the metal tape on it. Now obviously because it sort of has an elbow in it, you can't just wrap it, you have to cut some pieces, but it was pretty easy to do. This has an R value of 4, but because I got a good tight wrap on that duct, I think it'll really help avoid those temperature swings. So obviously a really tight spot, you have to sort of cut the duct wrap into smaller pieces and then use the metal tape to make sure that you got a good seal on everything. But that's sort of what I came up with, cutting a lot of small pieces and taping it. And then I just cut the rock wool into smaller pieces and inserted it behind. So here's a quick sort of before at what the joist headers look like. Obviously it looks pretty bad, and the floor was really cold in the winter. So this should really help with the tight insulation right up onto the floor and double thick. So that's what it looks like after I sort of did what I was going to do. Like I said, I'm going to remove that wall in a future video and then tie the bottom plastic in to keep an airtight seal. And as you can see, I also came around with some of the tuck tape to tape up points where the electrical wires enter the plastic. Anyway, thanks for checking out my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.